Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 724. Bad kicks, bad tackles, and bad endings. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well.
Right off the bat, Eddie, I've been told to remind you about Oasis tickets.
Oh, yeah. Happy New Year for starters, I suppose. But yes, I know that we had several months ago discussed I was part of the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who wanted Oasis tickets, waited hours on a website for Oasis tickets. I secured my Oasis tickets. But as I also mentioned on the podcast, I then realized I had accidentally bought accessibility tickets. And Ticketmaster asked me to send proof of disability to them. So, as I also outlined on the podcast, I just sent like, hey, I've had some stomach issues. I had my gallbladder removed. There's I embellished things slightly, some ongoing issues.
I shit every 5 minutes. I have to run to the bathroom.
Yeah, like, hey, if I'm going to be at a concert, I need easy access to a bathroom. I don't want people to push into me a lot. Those, nothing too outrageous.
Oh, you got upgraded to a suite, private suite with a private bathroom.
No, initially, so I filled in the form. They were fine with the form, but then they said, can you please send us something from your doctor? So I tried to kind of get around this, and Ticketmaster canceled my tickets. So
really,
Oasis tickets gone. Why
didn't you just get a letter from your doctor?
So then I complained. I said, hey, look, this is unfair. I've bought flights. I've paid for a hotel. Like, a lot of planning has gone into this. I was always responding to your emails. I just needed a little bit longer because I live in France. My doctor's a French speaker, so getting him to have something in English was a little bit more complicated, and I needed a bit more time. So they decided to give me one last opportunity. And thanks very kindly to a Dr. Timothy Swartz, who is unaware of his participation in this process. He spoke in depth about how he's been a consultant on my case and my chronic issues that I suffer from. I now have my Oasis tickets back, and I also have a 2-year clearance from Ticketmaster to buy accessibility tickets for any upcoming events.
That's amazing. I can't wait till they listen to this and then they re-cancel.
But that being said...
Wait. Here's what I want to know, though. Did Tim actually write you a letter, or did you just write a letter and sign his name? So now Tim's going to get fired from his job for impersonating a medical doctor.
I never said he was a medical doctor. I did Dr. Timothy Swartz, but no, Tim is completely unaware of his involvement in this. If Tim listened to the podcast, this would be the first thing he'd heard of it. But yes, so the thing I didn't realize, though, was that these accessibility tickets, it comes with a companion. So obviously, because they think you need some type of carer. So I bought 2 tickets. That was effectively buying 4 tickets. Whoa. And it meant that I needed to also provide proof of disability for whoever this other person, which I was unable to do. So that one of my tickets remained canceled. However, in the end, I have 2 tickets. So if it really worked out, it means I actually spent half as much on the 2 tickets that I now have to the Oasis concert than I'd originally planned.
Why didn't you tell me? And we could have done my DVT as the other one, and then I could have went.
What, do you want me to get back in there?
Maybe. Let me think about it. What are the dates?
I'll send you the details. But we'll see. I think unfortunately, the opportunity may have passed, I think. But it all, in the end, seemingly worked out. I say this when I log into Ticketmaster. I don't have any tickets. So I need to get in touch with them. I have, because they did reimburse me. So I then had to pay for them again. So I've gone through that process. That at least makes me feel slightly comforted because someone from Ticketmaster like called me and I paid. They took my credit card details over the phone.
Can
So
I ask you another question?
mhm.
Did you make like grammatical errors and typos in Tim's letter to make it seem like he was a French speaker trying to write in English?
No. Do you want me
Oh,
to read you my letter?
no.
But no, it did not. So it was all in perfect English.
Surprising that they don't follow up. I guess there's so many that they can't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, and again, what did panic me slightly is they responded and went, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Hewitt, for sending over this information. We will confirm that there'll be a wheelchair available for you at the concert." And I was like, "Whoa, I don't need a wheelchair. Let's not put me in a really awkward
But does that mean
situation."
you're going to stand?
Yeah, I'll just be standing. I mean, I think I'm just going to go into, because this is a park. It's not a stadium, right? It's a concert in a park, so I can just go in the normal section.
I don't think so, Eddie. If you want to be special, you got to be in the special section.
But there's also a certain attraction, given that it's 100,000 people in a park. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that the accessibility section will be like some kind of platform or isolated area, probably reasonably close to the stage as well. So really,
Are you going to feel like a real shithead when you go and they put you in a special accessible area and it's you and people with actual ailments and disabilities? Is
no.
that going to make you feel bad at all? No.
No, because the real thing is for those people where it's like more physically evident as to what they're suffering from. When I turn up looking pretty healthy, they're gonna really feel sorry for me because they're gonna be like, "Wow, that guy must have something really bad wrong with him because we can't tell what it is." And that's so they'll
I
probably
think
have
this is a
some.
real Larry David type moment where you're going to start faking like Tourette's or stutter or something.
No, no, no. Honestly, the idea in my mind is to get out of the accessibility section as quickly as possible and just not have that, not deal with it. But if it is very advantageous to be there for viewing purposes, then that's where I'll be. And who
Maybe they'll
knows?
give you like special food because of your GI issues.
Maybe. Well, yeah, I didn't go into too many details as to exactly what was wrong with me. Chronic gastrointestinal issues. That was the with one gallbladder removal and possible surgeries in the future, including one that could be quite close to the concert.
It's unreal. I love that you just signed Tim. Why didn't you just sign a fake name then? Why did you have to put Tim down?
Because
What's the difference?
because on the off chance that they do some kind of research or outreach, I put my cell phone number as his cell phone number because they don't have my number. So
What
I
hospital did you put him at? What's the
uh
signature line?
um let me I'll tell you. So I felt like just in the off chance that they at least like a Google went
Yeah,
on.
that's what I'm doing right now. I'm Googling in real time. Timothy Schwartz, what?
Well, no, that just Dr. Timothy Schwartz would at least show up, you know? So it was just covering my bases there that when they kind of had a look at that, they would at least see.
But you didn't put like a hospital down or anything that he works at on the signature line?
I think I just put consultant. I didn't want to tie him to a hospital. That seemed a stretch too far.
I'm not seeing any Dr. Tim Schwartz. Timothy
Even
J. Schwartz in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
there we go. Who knows? But no, I mean, hey, look,
France.
it all worked out, and that's all that matters. And I'll get to fulfill.
I guess the second thing that comes up is Timothy Schwartz Institute of Cardio Metabolism and Nutrition. So if someone just briefly saw that, maybe.
Does that guy look nice?
It's Tim, but
Oh, it's actual Tim. Okay.
yeah, that's where he worked before.
Even better. So we're fine. You know, like,
But the LinkedIn does not match, so that could be your issue. And that's the first thing that comes up.
Doctors don't do LinkedIn.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Tim is on LinkedIn.
But if they call me and they go, Dr. Timothy Swartz, it looks like your LinkedIn. It's like, oh, those are separate. That's my, in addition
That's
to
my twin brother with the same name.
no, I would just say, well, in addition to my medical work, I also, have some involvement in a biomedical startup.
Oh man. Well, that's quite a good story. Well, while we're discussing, I guess, entertainment, yesterday I went and saw Nosferatu in the theaters, the new Robert Eggers movie. It was good. I don't think it will be everyone's cup of tea. It's very Robert Eggers-y. So for people who have seen like The Witch or The Lighthouse, and you enjoyed those movies, then I think you'll definitely like this. It's a little more mainstream. It's not as like indie and artistic as those, but it still has that feel. But if you didn't, for instance, like The Lighthouse, and you probably won't love the new Nosferatu, it's a little out there, but it's good, and it's pretty creepy. Like, he does a good job of it being a creepy movie, and he expands upon the original, like, was it 1920s silent film? So it was good. But in the theater, they're the recliner seats, the lounge recliners, the leather ones that you can pop back, put your feet up or whatever. And the woman next to me was like rustling through her pocketbook, her purse, the entire fucking movie. Like, endless noise, like could not stop making noise and moving. It was driving me insane. And at one point I looked over and she had popped her shoes off and was barefoot on the recliner with her feet about 3 feet from me. Not ideal.
No, people are way too comfortable taking their shoes and socks off in public now. Like, I think we had a conversation about this not that long ago about just people
about flights,
like traveling in pajamas,
yeah.
and just kind of not caring about how they present themselves in public, and the ease with which people will slip their shoes off. Like, and I'm not doubting your shoes you probably clean yourself. Your feet are probably okay. Like, I'm not saying that they're that super gross, but I also hate people put their shoes on things too much. Like, I hate you get on a train and someone will put their shoes up on the other seat. It's like, yeah. Someone's going to sit there. Like, those are your gross shoes. It's been like trudging through piss all day. Like, I don't, like, why is that?
Great outlook on society there. People just pissing on the streets and sidewalks all day.
It could be animal piss, but like, I don't want to sit in that as the next person who comes along. So, yeah, it's just people need to have, like, is it that comfortable? Like, that's the other thing. People go overboard.
No, because she has, like, slides on. I mean, like, just fucking keep whatever you have on. Just cover something. Like, I don't want to be eating popcorn and look down and 3 feet away is your fucking gross feet, like, curling up by me. Like, get out of here.
People treat it still because I think we created the idea that shoes are uncomfortable, and so that removing your shoes is this super relaxing experience. And yeah, if you're in high heels or like dress shoes or certain things, then yeah, it is nice to take your shoes off after a long day walking in them. But if you're in your Air Force Ones, they're pretty comfortable. Like, if I take my sneakers off at the end of the day, I'm not like, oh my God, thank God I finally got those things off my feet.
If anything, my jeans are more uncomfortable. I should just pop my jeans off in the theater.
That's fair enough. You can at least undo the belt and unbutton the pants.
And just wiggle them down a little.
Yeah, a little bit of breathing room. To be honest with you, I would find that less off-putting than you slipping your shoes off. As long as you
if I'm commando underneath?
No, then we got it off. As long as you addressed, like, if you were like stretched back, like, oh man, my stomach's just a little big after that meal, and then you unbuttoned it, you don't want to be like creepy cinema masturbator. But if you like just make a big deal, that's a real Larry David move of really like making sure everyone around you is aware of why you are unbuttoning. I would be more okay with that than your feet.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. The other entertainment thing that we can get your opinion on, and then we can transition, I think, into the college football is I went to, after that movie, I went and watched the Ohio State Oregon game, which turned out to be not really worth watching. But I went to the bar with my buddy, and it turns out the bar we went to was an Ohio State bar, which was whatever. Ohio State fans are whatever. But interestingly, it was a nice setup because it was like an indoor outdoor bar, and the outdoor part probably had, I don't know, like 12 televisions. So like anywhere you sat, you had a good view, and it was like the weather was perfect. It was nice, and they had the sound on, which is always great when you like go to a bar to watch a game and the sound is on. But they had the Pat McAfee alternate broadcast sound on.
No, that's a weird move.
So weird, right? And it's really weird because they like kind of announce the game, but not really, is the first thing. So like every once in a while, there'll be like 3 or 4 plays where they're just not talking about the play. 2, they're on like a 3 or 4 second delay. So like it doesn't match with the video that you're seeing, which is also really weird. And then 3, it's fucking Pat McAfee. Like he gets really annoying really quickly. He said his phrase that he kept using was, and Oregon is playing like a shite. They're playing shite football right now. He kept saying shite because I guess he's allowed to say that and not say shit. So he thinks it's like hysterical. He said it like 15 times. And at a point, there was a point where I clearly was not the clientele at the bar. You know, I could care less about Ohio State. But I wanted to ask why we had this on. Like, why can't we go to the main broadcast where people who dedicated their lives to broadcasting games are doing?
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about it before. I don't get the Pat McAfee thing. I admire his, you know, when he does some of the college game day stuff, the chanting and things. There's a degree of charisma there that I'll at least have to acknowledge, or like his willingness to, you know, be loud and sort of obnoxious. It gets too much for me, but in small doses, I might be able to appreciate it at times. But I don't fully understand. Like, it bothers me so much the number of times I read an article or like there's a comment section on something that he's done, and it's people just loving him relentlessly, and Pat McAfee single-handedly saving ESPN. I mean, I don't think ESPN needs saving, for starters. And if they do, I don't think Pat McAfee's the answer to the question.
Yeah, it was strange. It was also slightly unfortunate because there was a very slim probability, but when Oregon scored going into the half and then came out and had scored again, it like had the potential where like there could be like a little uh-oh moment, but then like they've kind of fucked up the like the next drive or the drive after, and then it was kind of game over because then I think Ohio State scored after that. But it was looking like it was going to get kind of interesting at the bar where everyone, you know, thought the game was over and blah blah blah, and then like, oh, here kind of comes Oregon a little, but unfortunately that did not happen. So
yeah, well, that was a blowout. I guess not too much reason to discuss that particular game. Penn State, pretty much a blowout, always in control against Boise State.
Can't wait till March. I'm going to the all-you-can-eat burger and pints bar. It's 100 pounds a person, and you get all the burgers and pints you want.
And then the only close game so far, we're obviously recording this as Notre Dame are playing Georgia in their delayed game that was originally scheduled to be played last night. But the only close game was that Texas-Arizona State game, which initially looked like it was going to be super comfortable for Texas, and then they just managed to allow Arizona State right back into the game, and ultimately were probably lucky to come away with the victory. Yeah. I mean, but so far, all of the lower seeds won the sort of quarterfinal stage. 3 lower seeds so far.
Better seeds.
Yeah, the better teams, lower seeds. We'll see what happens today with Notre Dame, Georgia, if Notre Dame as the lower seed also advances.
Well, I guess we should say the better ranked teams, because Boise State was a number 3 seed, but their ranking was actually lower down than Penn State. So not the seeding, but the actual CFP ranking. Better teams have won.
So now 2 rounds into this expanded playoffs, have your thoughts on the playoffs changed at all? And who now do you think is favorite with a semifinal and a final to go?
When you say thoughts, do you mean the thoughts of like, is this 12-team playoff working?
Yeah.
It's tough because I guess the argument can be made as to whether Ohio State would have made it. Had it been, if it was a 4-team, no, they don't. If it's an 8-team, I think they probably still make it, but maybe not, depending on how you pick 8 teams. If you just pick the 8 best through the rankings, I think they would have made it. But if you did, like, every conference has to have 1 team in, they probably then don't make it. It's probably pretty close. And then the same could be said probably for Penn State too. They'd be right on the border as well. So I think in a way, I'll say in that sense, it's working, that it's allowing, maybe at the end of the day, the 12-team playoff is good, not because it gives more opportunity to, let's say, less good teams, crappier teams, but it's actually giving the opportunity for very good teams that would have missed a 4-team cut a chance to still make it and then prove themselves, like Ohio State, like Penn State. So maybe, yeah, it is working in a way. I think they should just eliminate, though, putting teams like Boise State in or Indiana in, or, I mean, Arizona State, yeah, they played great, but I still don't think they really deserved it, compared to the schedule they played versus the schedule Ohio State plays. No way. But yeah, I think it's working. And in terms of how I feel, I still feel like Ohio State probably is the front runner now. Especially with Georgia's QB being out, with Beck being out. I think I lean towards Ohio State, and they kind of dismantled Oregon. So it looks like they're on the right track at the right time. I do think, though, that, like we talked about it previously, there's no super powerhouse. So if there was a year Penn State could win, I honestly think this could be the year they could win. They have a good run game, and they're okay relying on that run game. And their defense is solid. Like, it's a good defense. They had, I think, 4 turnovers, 14 points let up, and they shut down Genty. Like, absolutely shut him down. So I think they've got a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone left. And if you're making an argument for why this approach works, the fact that you're getting to a semifinal stage and you feel like you could make a compelling case for, whatever combination of 4 teams are left is proof that the system works. I think you could also make a strong argument that, yeah, if there were only 4 teams in the playoffs, that none of the 4 who will be in the semifinals may have made the playoffs in a 4-team format, which is kind of strange to think about, that you kind of might end up with, because it both proves the value.
Georgia will be the only one, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Because they won the championship.
But at the same time had 2 losses, so you kind of get into, if you were really... In some ways, you could be like, well, if we had to think about it more, do you put a 2-loss team in? But, so in some ways, that's a good case for the expanded playoffs. At the same time, we kind of ended up with the usual suspects. Like, so no surprises so far. The smaller teams have all... Arizona State's the only one that put up a big fight. I don't know if you saw that on our last episode, we had that discussion about the rules, how is something interpreted. I don't know if they had their blocked field goal attempts that was blocked, bounced, and then bounced through the uprights. I don't know if you saw this.
Was that the end of the first half?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was a brief question of, well, the ball has passed through the uprights. So is that a successful attempt?
No, because it hits the ground, right?
Yeah, it's a dead ball as soon as it touches the ground. But it was a kind of interesting... There was a brief moment...
It doesn't happen often.
No, I've never seen it happen before. I've never seen a blocked field goal hit the ground and somehow bounce through the uprights. It's a 1 in a million. And it's so unlikely, I feel like you should get the 3 points. I don't see why...
Half. Get 1.5.
Yeah, it's so unlikely. You should maybe give them more. Maybe that's...
For every bounce, every time it hits the ground, it's -1. So they should have gotten 2.
No, I think it's the opposite. Every time it bounces, the points double.
So then do you get like a kicker who wants it to get blocked, but then put the spin on it so that
Yeah.
it pops up?
You might have your own team attempting to block it just so that they can try and get, you see some real trick plays going on. But yeah,
Well,
it
I think
was,
that might be tough in college because the kicking so far has been pretty atrocious.
yeah, the Texas kicker, I'll give him a break
Oh,
on the,
Arizona State too. He missed two.
yeah,
Arizona State missed
one
two.
block.
Texas missed two. Boise State missed two, I think.
No, I mean, look, you know my thoughts. I don't understand. I especially don't understand nowadays with the type of NIL money that's available. And I know kickers are not getting a ton of it, but they're still getting some of it. Why you would not be going to Europe and just finding rugby players and saying, "Here, come, just kick for us. Like we're going to put you
Well,
through."
I agree. I think you can make a case for like Boise State or maybe even Arizona State not having the best kicker. But a team like Texas, how Texas doesn't have like a phenomenal kicker, whether he's like a 35-year-old ex Premier League player that you're just paying $2 million a year to come kick, like it's crazy. It is insane.
Yeah, with all these guys who would still have eligibility, so just send them over. But yeah, I don't fully get it. And yeah, you look at that Texas game. I'll give them the pass on the first one, but the game winner from what
38.
38 yards. I mean, you should be making that every time. And you actually saw the difference having then a day or two earlier, whenever it was, the day before, watching that Michigan Alabama game where Michigan has a super reliable kicker.
Oh yeah.
And then they were just able to actually play accordingly and know that they could get 3 points once they got inside the Alabama 50, so like that was a completely different approach. But the quality of kicking drives me insane. It's just completely unbelievable. And we're seeing it in the NFL too. It's not as if this is just a curse of the college kicker. It's really a bad year for kicking overall.
Yeah. In a time where at the same time you'll see people kick like 64 yarders, but then routinely miss like a 40 yarder. It's strange. But the other issue that I'm seeing with college football, and I think this is where Penn State was very different than Texas, in the fact that Penn State went into that game and they knew Genty was number one. You had to stop Genty. And every play they would have like people just swarming to tackle him and wrapping up. Like the first guy in there every time would just wrap and hold, and then the other guys would come in and finish the tackle. Texas said, "Oh, we know Scadaboo's good, but instead of trying to wrap up the 240-pound like miniature beast running back, we're just going to try and shoulder him, and maybe that'll work. Maybe our 200-pound safety, when he runs in and throws a shoulder, that'll knock him over." It was the worst example of tackling I've ever seen in a game. Like there were times where you would watch and it's like you're not even trying to wrap up. Like you're just throwing an arm at him. Like what are you doing? Like, who went into the game plan being like, this is the guy we got to stop, but we're not going to stop him by wrapping up. We're going to stop him by trying to out muscle him. Like it's not going to work. The tackling has just been so, like every game you watch, the tackling's bad. It's bad. And it's starting to translate into the NFL. Like we watched that Lions-Niners game. Watching that game, the tackling was awful.
I think there were 4 total tackles in that game.
It was awful.
I mean, we said earlier on, it was clear no teams, aside through mistakes and incompetence, neither of those teams was ever going to make a stop. And
No.
I mean, it was the first time in about 12 weeks that the Niners offense had actually looked pretty good. So the Lions deserve a lot of credit for kind of bringing them back to life. Brock Purdy ended up being the reason probably why the 49ers lost, with 2 pretty bad interceptions, but he also threw for nearly 400 yards. So it was a weird one where you kind of walked away from it being like, I think you lost because of Purdy. But at the same time, it's hard to be too critical of a quarterback who had nearly 400 yards, 3 touchdown passes, and a rushing touchdown. That's
Yeah.
Not the worst performance you're ever going to put in, and most of the time you would expect to be on the winning side, even with the interceptions. But I guess we can transition over to the NFL through that. But yeah, it was sort of the NFL, the Niners season in a nutshell. There were some glimpses of the possibility and potential within the team. A lot of just atrocious penalties at key moments. Just the ability to have like a somewhat sustained offensive drive and then just go, you know what, let's go back 15 yards now. That was too easy. Instead of being 3rd and 2, how about 3rd and 17? How does that sound? And yeah, I mean, it's tough. And obviously with Brock Purdy's contract, you're approaching a time where you're going to have to extend him. It does put the Niners in a somewhat interesting position. I feel like you have to extend Brock Purdy, but this season has been questionable enough where it's not as much of a no-brainer as it appeared 12 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think you have to sign Purdy, but you're going to start to lose other players because if you give him a big contract, you're going to run out of money. And they've wasted a lot on Debo already and Ayuk and Kittle. I mean, they haven't wasted it on Kittle, but
it's tied up. Yeah,
he's tied up. Yeah, and then your defense, you have Greenlaw and Warner, and it's a lot of high-profile players that all want and deserve big paydays. They're not going to be able to keep everybody.
Well, Niners Nation says that Purdy is willing to give a team. He's taking a page out of the Tom Brady book, and he's willing to give a team-friendly discount in order to have a more capable squad of players around him. The thing I think makes that tough is like the Tom Brady discount worked because Tom Brady taking a discount.
He's a billionaire already.
That's true. His ex-wife was earning more than him anyway, and he had no financial concerns. But him taking a discount made everybody else take a discount. So you really felt the value because he was setting the standard of, well, I'm the quarterback and I'm going to get paid $20 million a year. So none of you are getting paid more than me. And you're all going to also take 10, 15, 20% less than you'd get if you went and played for the Jets. And that worked because everyone bought in for the most part. The Niners, you had that complicated situation where you've already had players saying massive extensions. And it doesn't strike me that you've got a bunch of players who are necessarily going to be willing to take discounts. Like Kittle, maybe. He kind of strikes me a little bit like he might if he felt like they were close to making it over the hump. But Deebo Samuel's never going to take a discount or renegotiate to a more team-friendly deal. Brandon Ayuk's definitely not going to after the season he had and his injuries. He's going to be thanking his lucky stars that he got that contract signed when he did. But, that's the thing. It's not quite the Tom Brady situation. But anyway, that's far too much time to dedicate to the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, no, I think it's a good discussion, though, because this kind of a little similar to the Barkley situation that I wanted to bring up, too. Because if I'm Purdy, I get it. And I get the ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl and things like that. But this is your first contract. Tom Brady was taking a pay cut after he had already made probably $200 million, was getting hundreds of million dollars in endorsements, was obviously going to have a successful career post whenever he ended up retiring. Like, he's set financially. And I'm not saying that Brock Purdy won't be set if he takes a slightly lower contract, but at least maximize that first contract as much as you can, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, he could hurt his elbow again and be done permanently. Like, that's not that far off. He's already had one surgery on his elbow. Like, I think at a point it's okay to be selfish when it's like the first opportunity or the big opportunity. I wouldn't be upset if he was like, no, I'm not taking a team friend. No one else took a team friendly deal. Why do I have to? Debo Samuel was going to hold out. Ayuk was going to hold out because they wanted to get fucking buco bucks, right? Like, why shouldn't he? Why does he have to be the one that has to fold?
You're not wrong. At the same time, right, we can kind of forget. And this isn't fair to quarterbacks or professional athletes in general when you're like, well, you're earning so much money anyway. But the reality is when we're talking about a little bit of a team discount, we're probably saying, hey, Brock, instead of trying to ask for $50 million a year, you think you could sign for 40? So I get what you are saying, but the reality is he's probably still signing a $250 million contract. I think he'll be okay. With $100 million guaranteed. Like I think Brock Purdy should be fine unless he makes some catastrophic financial decisions, even with injuries, especially factoring in the fact, insurance. I think he'll be okay. So I think the team friendly discount makes sense, but it doesn't when no one else is, because then it's just you going, I'll earn less, so all you guys can earn more. Not so we can be a better team, but just so everyone else can earn more. Maybe he's that good of a guy, but who knows?
Maybe. But that brings me, I guess, to the Barkley issue. And the big talking point was Saquon needed a little over 100 yards to break Eric Dickerson's record. I know that Dickerson did it in 16. This would be Barkley's 17th game, but we already mentioned last podcast that he's actually had less carries than Dickerson. So if you look at it from a per carry standpoint, he'd actually, be right on par with it. And also it's a different game. It's a lot more pass heavy game. So you can make the argument that it's harder for Barkley in 17 than Dickerson in 16 because the offenses just aren't geared to run the ball like they were back then, which is probably indicative because Dickerson had a shit ton more carries. So obviously they were handing it off more and trying to run more. So I don't think there's an asterisk or anything like that. But I'm slightly disappointed that he's not going to go for it. So these are the quotes that he had said. He said, Sirianni asked me if I wanted to play, if I wanted to go for it. I said on Sunday that I probably didn't care too much for it. When I slept on it, it was an opportunity to implant my name in football history, and I never get an opportunity like that again. So I'm down. But at the end of the day, I don't care for putting the team at risk. He's the head coach for a reason. He makes those decisions, and whatever decision he wanted to make, I let him know, if you let me play, I'm going to go out there and make sure I get it. And if I don't, I'm okay with that too. Barkley is a nice person. I think he's a very genuinely nice-hearted person. That, I think, is the nicest way possible. He is trying to tell you he wants it, but he doesn't want to be an asshole and say he wants it, so he'll let the coach make the decision. And I think it's a terrible mistake because, unlike quarterbacks, I don't think a running back's legacy is supplanted into whether he wins Super Bowl or not. I mean, the prototypical case, Barry Sanders, best running back ever. Never won a Super Bowl. No one gives a shit if he won a Super Bowl or not. He's the best running back ever. Barkley has a chance to have his name be associated with the best rushing season in the history of the NFL. He could go on and win 2 Super Bowls with another team, and that's not going to make him a better running back. But this could be like ultimate legacy stuff that you don't get with any other position. I don't know why you wouldn't go for it. I get you're a team player, but at the end of the day, this is putting you in that legacy cloud.
Yeah, no, I'm in 100% agreement with you, and I'm surprised after he came out publicly and said what he said about it, the fact that he now sort of had a preference for playing, but was willing to do what the team told him to do. I think it's not a great look for Sirianni and the Eagles to not allow him to try and break that record. I think it's that shot at history. He's never going to get it again. And I do think, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, because you're going all in then, if you're him, the Eagles better win the Super Bowl now. Because if he sits out this week and then they lose in the first round of the playoffs, he's going to really wonder why he wasn't able to play 2 or 3 quarters and get the 100 yards he needed. So, you're kind of going all in if you're him, all in if you're the Eagles. And look, if he played and he got hurt, everyone would be telling him how dumb it was. So I do understand it. But I feel like you give him a couple carries early and you can see, hey, can you get a 30-yard, 40-yard carry in the first couple? Look, if you get stuffed, if you're five carries for 7 yards, we're just going to call it quits. But if after the first quarter you've got 45, 50 yards in the books, then we'll let you keep going for it. I don't know. It seems I would definitely want the record, and I'm sort of somewhat sad for him that he won't have the chance to try and break it.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% in agreement. I mean, when he played the Giants last time, he had 176 yards in 3 quarters. So he could easily get to 100 at half and then just sit out the second half. It's, again, if you're a quarterback, that's a completely different decision, because I think quarterbacks' legacies are highly tied to how many Super Bowls they have. Running back legacies, not so much. Wide receiver, not so much. Like if this were Randy Moss, I would not for a second tell Randy Moss to sit and break the single season receiving record. Like, go for it, because you're going to have that for life. And then at the end of the day, if you want to get a ring, you can do what a lot of players do, and towards the end of your career, hop on a good team for a discount and be a player and get a ring. It's so much different than a quarterback. Like, Barkley might never have this opportunity again, and this could be like, this is, like, future awards could be named after you because you're the leading rusher, things like that. Like, even post career, you can't tell me it makes a difference if Barkley's going to do something and he's this is Saquon Barkley. He's a 2-time All-Pro running back who won a Super Bowl, versus this is Saquon Barkley, the single season rushing record holder. Like, that has so much weight to it. It is sad. I wish he would go for it.
Well, we discussed it in the last episode.
And I wish Johnny wasn't an asshole.
we discussed in the last episode. I think getting the record instantly makes him a Hall of Famer. So you would have,
for sure.
It's one game for a Hall of Fame spot, basically, is he got there. But also, I think there's a difference too between here and, say, a lot of quarterback records. Most of the quarterback records have been broken with some frequency over the last 10, 15 years. This is a 30-year-old record. So it's a pretty old sports record. And when you get to break one that's been hanging around for a long time, that's different than being like, when it's like when Peyton Manning and
Drew Brees
were or Tom Brady, when every week whoever was playing last was breaking the record each time. Who cares? But when you're actually breaking something that's a few people have attempted to break and got close and weren't able to do so, and it's been around for 30 years, it might be around for another 30. And, there's a chance you break that record. That might be the rest of your life. You get to be that person. Not, I briefly, for the summer of 2025, I was had the single season touchdown record as a quarterback, but I don't know. I think it's a shame. And it also, in a last week of the season, that's maybe lacking that many good storylines or reasons to really be invested in many of these games. It's also denying the neutral, like that's now a completely non-event in terms of watching. Whereas otherwise I would have tuned in for the first quarter or two.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, he also made a good statement about it being special to do it against the Giants. And he seems like a pretty genuine, nice person. He said, and not because of the animosity towards the Giants, but in the fact that, he started his career there. They built him up. They did everything they could to make him a great running back. And, they have some input into how successful he has been now, which was a nice way of putting that. I think it would have been special. And I think it would have gotten Giant fans to come and watch for sure.
But on that note, having said how there's not that many storylines or games of insignificance in this final week of the season, should we go through the games that matter? I think we can ignore Eagles, Giants, and those games where there's nothing to play for, but there's quite a few where there is at least potentially something up for grabs. And that actually starts.
We discussed it last podcast about the different permutations and what games matter. So
yeah, and that starts with the first game of the weekend, which is the Ravens at home to the Browns. The Browns clinch the AFC North and a number 3 seed.
Whoa. The Ravens clinch, not
Ravens.
The Browns.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I had a brief stroke there. That's why Ticketmaster is allowing me to
what a wild card move that would be by the NFL. Whoever wins this game is the AFC North champs.
Yeah, it's like a WWE title belt.
Yeah.
You can strip the reigning champion of it in the final week of the season. But yes, the Ravens clinch the AFC North title and the number 3 seed if they win or tie against the Browns. They would also clinch the division if they lose, but the Steelers then lose or tie in the next game when the Bengals are at home. The Steelers are at home to the Bengals.
Yeah, and then I guess we discussed this on the last podcast, but this worked out perfectly for the NFL because even if the Ravens win, the second game isn't meaningless for the Steelers because if they end up losing, they could continue to drop in their seeding. They're guaranteed a playoff spot, but they can continue to drop and go from the 3 seed to the 5 seed to potentially the 6 seed. So they still will have something to play for, which is great, and the NFL did a good job with that. The spread is now up to 21 for the Ravens. It's insane. I don't know how you bet that. Like, I'm sure they cover, but like, I could never take a 21-point spread in an NFL game.
No, I can't take a situation where a team could absolutely dominate and you still lose against the spread. Like, the Ravens were in complete control, won that game by 19. And
because I also think there's like a huge Arctic front coming through the whole East Coast. So there's a chance it could be, like 5 degrees out and people just can't literally catch or throw the ball.
Yeah. Although I guess with the Ravens run-heavy game, that's maybe not the biggest issue. And speaking of NFL sort of things working out for the NFL, in addition to the Steelers obviously having something to kind of play for in that game, obviously the Bengals are a must-win and cross their fingers. So you're guaranteed that those 2 games on the Saturday have something up for grabs, regardless of what the outcome is in the first one.
Yeah. And I think the Bengals will beat the Steelers on the night game.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Bengals, I do think the Bengals will win just because this feels like a very bad matchup for the Steelers, given that, the Bengals defense is bad, but they score a lot of points. The Steelers are not built to win games 38-36, and that's probably how you have to beat the Bengals. But that being said, even though I think the Bengals will take care of business, I don't think they'll get the help that they need, because if they are going to get into the playoffs, they also need the Broncos to lose to the Chiefs, the Dolphins to lose or tie with the Jets. And given that the Chiefs are likely to be resting everyone and it's must win for the Broncos, I think that alone is not a good situation for the Bengals to be in.
Yeah, I think they might. There's a potential that they could get lucky with the Dolphins because Tua, I'm pretty sure, is still out. And who knows with the Jets? Maybe Aaron Rodgers wants to have a career game to bump up his Netflix show again. So that one, I'm not confident, but I would think if I'm a Bengals player, we've got a shot. But the Broncos going against the Chiefs team that will be likely resting everybody is going to be tough. Maybe Carson Wentz wants the ball out. Who knows? But I don't know who's going to be balling out with because I don't know who's going to be on that field with them.
No, I agree with you. I think that's unlikely. Now, there are those conspiracy theories that say that there's reasons for the Chiefs to win the game because then they could, have the Bills playing the Bengals and potentially, you increase the chances if they think the Bills are the worst case scenario for them as a playoff matchup. Do you hope that the Bengals beat the Bills? And, is that your best chance of having an easier path to the Super Bowl? I think that feels super convoluted and, like too much for a team to be worrying about.
Let me throw a hypothetical rule change out for you, Eddie. What if for any team who healthy scratches or sits more than 3 players, it's an automatic loss?
Yeah, I don't hate that. I guess you'd have to get really detailed about the rules because does it count as a scratch if like Patrick Mahomes goes in, plays one
snap,
and then goes and sits down? Like if you circumvented the rules in that process, it's like the whole issue with the NBA.
Fakes an injury.
Yeah. Like what are you going to do? How much are you evaluating him? I kind of don't hate it. Like it wouldn't bother me in a sense if the Chiefs could just, and like obviously they could, but if they could almost just forfeit the game
and not even play, rest everybody, literally everyone.
Like I wouldn't hate that as that being an option where it wasn't really frowned upon. You just go, you know what, we're going to lose 20-0. Congratulations. Let's not even waste our time because no one's really going to enjoy watching all of our backups fumble their way around the field for 3 hours.
The other speaking of the Bengals, the other thing that's been coming up a lot is the MVP race. And several people, including Micah Parsons, and I think, was it Herb Street? Might have been, Aikman. I think it was Aikman, had said that Joe Burrow deserves to win the MVP. Now, I have two major issues with this. So they're related, I guess. The first issue is I don't think you can be MVP when you have another player on your team that's having like a career year. So, for instance, Jamar Chase is having a phenomenal season, like a crazy good wide receiver season. In a similar sense, Lamar Jackson has Derrick Henry, who is not having the numbers of Barkley, but is a clear impact on that field. And to me, that's where Josh Allen is, for me, the clear MVP for part one, is because he doesn't have like a Derrick Henry or a Jamar Chase. The second one is I don't get how you can be the most valuable player for a team that has 8 losses. Like, how valuable are you? You've lost half your games. You can't be that valuable. Josh Allen is valuable because they've only had 2-3 losses. Is Joe Burrow the offensive player of the year? Yeah, maybe. Okay, that I'm fine with. But you can't be the most valuable if your team isn't actually that good. What are they if he's not there? 5-11? You know, they're it's not much different than 8-8.
So this is a tough one. I do think realistically you have to make the playoffs in order to be in contention for winning the MVP. At the same time, though, you can be outstanding on a bad team. It comes down to that debate of what does most valuable player, and we've had this discussion a while ago, but what does MVP mean? Does it mean that you have more impact on your team than any other player in the league does, or does it mean that you're the best player in the league that season? How you interpret MVP can vary, and it's not clearly defined. So I think that's tough. It's also tough when you were saying, well, if someone's having a career year. As a quarterback, that puts people in a difficult situation because there's a strong chance if you have an incredible year, at least one of your wide receivers probably is. Maybe not to Jamar Chase levels, but you know what I mean? Like, obviously there's correlation there between your statistical performance and the performance of your wide receivers. But
maybe, but Jackson and Allen don't, right? They're the two other best quarterbacks in the league, and neither of them have a receiver that's close to Chase statistically.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, Zay Flowers has over 1,000 yards, and that's pretty much the only standout. The Bills is pretty evenly spread around between Shakir, Coleman, Kincaid, Hollins, Knox, Cooper.
Yeah.
Cooper
but like,
only.
I agree with you. Flowers has 1,004 TDs, but Chase has 1,616 TDs. Like, that's a crazy year.
Yeah, like, and look, you can make the argument that Joe Burrow has been the best player in the NFL this season. But I also think sometimes statistically, and you and I off the podcast have this discussion a lot, he comes up short in some key moments in these games, which is what's leading then to the loss column growing. Because it's like, yeah, you threw for 450 yards, 500 yards, but you had that one drive where you just needed one more first down, or that one drive where you just needed to get into field goal range, and you didn't manage to do it. And then, those are somewhat empty stats that you're then putting up behind you. Admittedly, okay, you take it the last game, you have an easy field goal that gets missed. There's times he's certainly not being helped by his team, but it does matter. In the Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson discussion in terms of MVP, I mean, I think it's almost certainly going to Josh Allen, although it's interesting.
I don't know. A lot of people have said that they're going to take Lamar over Josh Allen.
So Josh Allen currently is 1-4 favorite in the betting markets. I do think it's interesting. You've got Josh Allen is not going to play this weekend.
Nope.
Lamar Jackson is going to play and probably put up huge numbers.
On prime time, the only game.
And it leaves you with that lasting memory. And especially if the Bills then lose on Sunday, where you kind of go, oh, regular season, they ended with a loss. I don't know.
And I'll say this: the stats actually favor Lamar Jackson. Statistically, now he is having a better year than Josh Allen in terms of, I think, like passing yards. Let's see. So Allen has 3,700. Lamar Jackson has just under 4,000. Touchdowns. Lamar Jackson has 39 to 4 interceptions. Josh Allen only has 28 to 6 interceptions. And I think the rushing is like pretty close for both of them in terms of like rushing touchdowns and stuff. So statistically, Lamar Jackson is having the better year.
Rushing, Lamar Jackson has 852 yards on 130 carries with 4 touchdowns. And Josh Allen has 531 yards on 102 carries. So,
but how many touchdowns? He's got more, I think.
12.
Yeah, 12 touchdowns. Yeah, so significantly more touchdowns. So like if you just looked at the numbers, yeah, maybe Lamar is having the better year, but I think watching the games, anytime the Bills are winning and dominating, it's because literally Josh Allen is putting the team on his back. And I like physically, like he is carrying defenders into the end zone, and making crazy plays and keeping plays alive and making amazing throws. And I'm not saying Lamar Jackson doesn't do that, but he also has a lot of help in Derrick Henry. And they can, during late in games, when they have to close out a game, they can give it to Henry 4 or 5 times in a row, and he will just tear through that defense and win you that game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should be punished for having good teammates. But again, this comes back to the discussion. Is it who is the biggest difference maker on their individual team, or is it who is the best player in the league in that season? I lean more towards the idea that you're the best player in the league, because I think that difference maker discussion is way too complicated. Like like there you could have the 13th best quarterback in the league, but who had the biggest impact on their. For example, where does Sam Darnold rank in terms of impact he's had on that team? It's probably more significant than say Joe Burrow, because he's taking his team to the playoffs, and B, we saw what they look like without Sam Darnold, with basically all the same weapons around them, and it wasn't this good. So, yeah, I don't know. I will tend to lean towards the MVP is the best player in the league. I would vote for Lamar Jackson, I have to say, but you can make a strong case for either of them.
I would vote for Allen, because I think I lean more towards the other way, where to me it's a little bit of, it is, they have to statistically be having a great season, but also when you watch those games, like, is that person the difference maker? And for me, like, I don't know where the Bills are without Josh Allen. Like, you watch some of those games and it's and even sometimes to a fault, I think he tries to do too much sometimes and it actually hurts them. But I think either way, he is that team.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the Ravens are very much Lamar Jackson's team. I don't know where they are. He's the only quarterback they could have and run the system and have the team that they have around him. They're both irreplaceable because of their talents and but you can make you can make a very strong case for either one of them. I don't think someone could tell you you're wrong. If you're wrong, if you come away from this being like, there's no way Lamar Jackson is the MVP, then you're an idiot. But if you just say, hey, they're both having great seasons, I personally think it should be Josh Allen. That's fine. I wouldn't, I couldn't argue with you too much. Getting back to the games this week, though, you then have the Panthers at the Falcons on Sunday, where the Falcons need a win to win the NFC South,
but also a loss for the Bucs from the Bucs.
Yeah, they need the Bucs to lose to the Saints.
Oh boy!
And speaking of that game, obviously for the Bucs, very simple equation: win or a tie against the Saints, and the Buccaneers are in. So pretty straightforward for them. The other thing, speaking of records, Baker Mayfield's been very openly speaking about how he's going to help Evans get to 1,000 receiving yards and a $3 million bonus. So keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, and I think, I think we've mentioned this maybe last year or the year before, but I don't know why Evans doesn't get the recognition that he probably should. When you look at the statistics, he is probably like one of the best receivers of this generation, if not the best, like statistically. I mean, every year he's got 1,000 yards. He's got double-digit touchdowns. You know, like he has gone under the radar for a decade now.
And he's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of the players who are in the discussion, the wide receiver discussion, are trophyless. I do agree with you. I think he had this unfortunate thing where he burst onto the scene as a young player, and it was Mike Evans. Is he the best wide receiver in the NFL? And then he had a couple years where, with the combination of injuries and the Bucks being bad, he just fell out of that conversation. And now is just I agree with you, completely overlooked when it comes to that talk. You know, he is not making many people's lists when they talk about who's the best wide receiver in the league. You know, even when you see a lot of those lists, which is like who are the best 5 wide receivers in the league, Mike Evans usually doesn't feature, and it is pretty extraordinary given the consistency. Also, just that combination of sort of size and speed to be able to be both a big play wide receiver, but also a great wide receiver to have when you're in the red zone. You know, if you kind of compare it to someone like Tyreek Hill, where it's like, yeah, he'll take the top off and make some incredible plays, but I don't know if I want Tyreek Hill to be. If you're 3rd and 7 in the red zone, I'd much rather have Mike Evans than Tyreek Hill as my, the target that I'm going to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, probably underappreciated.
This is Mike Evans' 11th year in the league, and his first 10 years, he's gotten 1,000 yards every season. And that is, some seasons he didn't play the full games, but most he did. Here's something crazy to think about. He was 3rd in Offensive Rookie of the Year voting his first year. Do you know who won? Do you want to take a guess at who won that year? This will make you appreciate the longevity and the success that he's had.
I mean, he came out, is that the same? That's the Johnny Manziel year? Did they come out in the same year? Or did Evans stay for a year longer? Just trying to think who else was in his draft class. So you're implying it's someone who's already retired.
No, they're not retired. I can say that, but someone who's struggled to be consistent like Mike Evans has.
What position do you play?
He's also a receiver.
Also a receiver. Oh. I don't know. I give up.
OBJ.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Mike Evans has clearly had the better career, but Odell Beckham's the bigger name and probably gets more recognition overall.
Right, but how? Right? I mean, that's what's crazy is when you look at OBJ, he's had 3 years, 5 over 1,000.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I guess he can if he can make some big plays, that's a fun offense to watch. So if they can win on Sunday and then make some big plays in the playoffs, then that might help him get a bit more of that attention. Other games, we've already mentioned the Broncos, also in a very similar situation to the Bucks. Win or a tie, and they're in. This is the 3rd week in a row where the Broncos have had a chance to clinch their playoff spot. So far, failed to do so. But they could also get in if the Dolphins and Bengals lose or tie their games. So there's a possibility that they could blow it and still make it, but I think they probably need to win. We also already mentioned, part of that same discussion, the Dolphins, the Jets. The Dolphins need to win and hope that the Broncos lose, and then the Dolphins are in. But yeah, with a likelihood that there's no Tua, then this a little bit of a tricky matchup. The Jets are bad, but they're not that bad. Like it wouldn't be that weird. Their defense is quite good at times, so if you got a backup quarterback there, it's probably not ideal. Yeah,
Tua right now is questionable, but he didn't play last week, and he was questionable as well, so not super confident.
And then the last game where it's deciding who's in or out of the playoffs is the final game of the regular season. The Vikings at the Lions.
Well, they're
And
both in the playoffs.
yes, sorry, deciding who wins a division. And so this is the difference between either being the number one seed in the NFC or the number 5 seed in the NFC. So a pretty significant drop off. And
Did you see that this game is the most combined wins by teams playing each other in NFL history?
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So 28 wins combined between them.
Not bad. There, I don't know. So far, I think every team we've predicted where we said that that team needs to win, I think I would feel confident that they're all winning with the possible exception of the Dolphins because of their
I stayed away from the Dolphins.
But I feel very confident that the Bucks will win, Broncos will win, Falcons will win, Bengals will win. But yeah, it's a little tougher in that Dolphins game. Here, this is the more and more I see of the Lions, the less and less I trust them. Even that win against the Niners, which I know they came away feeling like it was a statement win, but I think it's hard to say it's too much of a convincing statement when you are just giving up huge drives pretty much every possession. And you're also, look, it's cool that they run nice gimmicky plays, but it scares me that you're having to pull out those plays to win games. Like, and it also scares me that they're having to do it pretty much every week. And I'm also wondering, why aren't you holding on to some of those for playoff games? But it's just me.
Yeah, I am very surprised that the Lions are 3-point favorites for this. I don't know who watches the Lions play the last 2 weeks and watches the Vikings play the last 2 weeks and thinks that the Lions are the more complete team. I understand it's in Detroit, but lately that seems to be like not a 3-point swing. Like if you had told me the Lions are -1, then that's home field advantage. They're probably neutral. But -3 indicates that they think the Lions are the better team here, and I just don't know. To me, it's, do people still associate the Vikings with the clusterfuck that was the Vikings of the past 3 or 4 years that we've been burned on 36 times? Like, can people just not dissociate that Vikings name and this team? Maybe, but they seem like a much more complete team to me.
Yeah, their defense is super good. I mean, look, their defense is so good that they can spend several hours choreographing celebrations each week. That's how dominant they are. But yeah, I think talking about underappreciated players, I think the Vikings are an underappreciated team this year. I think for the most part, most people have probably not watched that much of the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think they haven't had that many primetime games. The focus within that division has very much been on the Lions and Packers from a national discourse perspective. And they're probably happy about it. They've just managed to sort of fly under the radar for the majority of the season. And there's a strong chance that they go into the playoffs and might even be underdogs in a playoff matchup where you feel like they should be favorites. The one thing about this Lions team, I guess, is they're just scary fast. It is true. When that offense starts moving, they just look faster than pretty much every other team in the NFL, and it is kind of scary to watch. But their defense is so bad and seems to be getting worse by the week. And this Vikings offense is stacked with weapons. I mean, it will probably be a shootout, but if it is a shootout, I trust that the Vikings defense is more likely to be the one that makes a big play at a big moment than a Lions defense that, had George Kittle running down, for 40, 50 yards on a consistent basis. And then in the final combination of games that are just for seedings, you have the Commanders at the Cowboys, where the Commanders will either be the 6th seed and play either the Rams or the Bucks, or the 7th seed and play the Eagles. So from a Commanders perspective, they would much rather win and be that 6th seed. I mean, a Rams or Bucks matchup is a lot nicer than having to play the Eagles. And so I think, and there's also a scenario here where they can still get the 6th seed if they tie with the Cowboys and the Packers tie against the Bears or lose to the Bears. And speaking of, Speaking of that
Good.
that Packers Bears game, then for the Packers, it's the kind of reverse of that Commanders situation. So they would want to win and hope that the Commanders lose, in which case they'll be the 6th seed. So, for both of those teams, one of those rare moments where there's a real incentive to improve your seedings. Sometimes it's always one of those like, what difference does it really make? I think in this situation, it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah. And just I want to go back to that Lions-Vikings game real quick. We said it could be a shootout. The highest over-under this year was 51 in a game, and this one is 56.5. So 5 points higher than the highest total in the entire season. It's going to be a shootout.
Yeah, you'd think so. And then the final 2 remaining games with anything to play for, you have the Chargers at the Raiders. Chargers already in the playoffs, but basically this is determining whether they are the 5 seed or the 6 seed.
Yeah.
A lot of complications. It's like not as easy as speaking about that previous couple matchups. There's multiple moving parts here that determine where they end up. So no point really kind of going through those scenarios. And that's a situation where maybe the Chargers won't care so much because they realize so much of it is out of their own hands. And then you have the Seahawks at the Rams, where this is the winner takes all for the NFC West. Whoever wins is the division winner. The Seahawks, is no longer the case after the Seahawks lost in Week 17. The Seahawks are out, but for the Rams, they could drop to the 4 seed if they lose, and Tampa Bay wins, and that 4 seed will be playing the loser of the Lions-Vikings game. So there is an incentive there. It's an easier matchup if the Rams can win. But that being said, they've already announced that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be starting in place of Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I was going to say the Seahawks are 6.5 point favorites. So, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because that is a big difference in terms of who the Rams play. But obviously, I think McVay's one of those coaches who deserves to be trusted at this point, which isn't true. There's a lot of coaches here where you're like, are you being too smart for your own good, or do you really know what you're doing? I think at least with McVay, been there, done that, and whichever path he decides to take, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to argue with him over it.
Yeah, I maybe, but I don't know. Playing the Vikings or the Lions seems like a death sentence.
Yeah, probably. But this Rams team, I don't think the Rams are very good, and then they kind of keep winning. So I don't know. I probably don't have a very good read on them because I'm not impressed with them pretty much anytime I watch them. But they have a knack for winning games, and they've got some good players and experienced players, a nice wide receiver core. Obviously, Sean McVay, one of the best coaches in the league, but I don't know.
You feel like they should be better than what they are. Like there have been games I've watched them and I have been impressed, but then there's probably more times I've watched them that I've been confused as to why they're so stagnant on offense when you have Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, and a good quarterback.
Yeah, offensively, it feels at times, once they got healthy again, that they should just be able to consistently move the ball and score points. Defensively, I don't have a lot of confidence in them. So it's one of those mixed. I do agree with you. There's times I watch it and you're like, you're losing 14-10 in the third quarter, and it feels like between those 2 wide receivers, you should be able to get someone open pretty much every play.
Yeah.
Like the Vikings do, basically. It feels like they should be a worse version of the Vikings, and they're a much worse version of the Vikings.
So I guess that's covering the NFL. The only other thing I want to cover football related is, I don't know if you saw, but in the Cheez-Its Bowl, there was a couple who requested to get married during the Cheez-Its Bowl. So they put them on like a float, like a parade float during, I think, the end of the first quarter. And a man dressed in a Cheez-Its costume was the officiant to their wedding. As they rolled through the 50-yard line, he married them at the Cheez-Its Bowl. I don't know. Like, there's no follow up to that. That's just like, that happened. That was a thing that happened.
I both love it and hate it. There's obviously no scenario in which I would, but if one of my friends were doing it, I guess I'd be like, it's kind of fun and unique, like, and probably a fun little like day celebrating at the game. You know, hopefully you have a box to have everyone who's sort of attending your wedding, so to speak, party at. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be part of it, but it would be a sort of interesting one. It's also just a weird, this is the world we live in moment.
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger thing is, but
I don't know what's weirder. I don't know if it's weirder that you're requesting to get married at the Cheez-Its Bowl, or that your officiant is an adult dressed in a costume that looks like a Cheez-It.
Do you think that was their go-to? Do you think we want the Cheez-It Bowl, or do you think they approached? I'm assuming it was location-based, and so they wanted the Cheez-It Bowl, or do you think they kind of went to like the NCAA? And it was like, we'd like to get married at a bowl game. And they're like, we'll give you the Cheez-It Bowl. Like, they probably were hoping for the Rose Bowl. Ended up with the Cheez-It Bowl.
Right.
But it is also...
thinking, like, what are some of the other bowls, right? So you have... I'm kind of going through some of them here. The Boca Raton Bowl. You don't want to go there because it's just going to be all... It might be your grandparents might be at the Boca Raton Bowl. The
Better name.
Art of Sport LA Bowl hosted by Gronk. You maybe could have Gronk be your officiant. That would have been okay.
Whoa, that would have been way better. And
the
he would have loved
DNA
that.
Cure Bowl. You could have cured cancer while you got married. That would have been better. The Gasparilla Bowl, not so great. Myrtle Beach Bowl. The Idaho Potato Bowl. The Hawaii Bowl. That would be good for your honeymoon. You're already set for the honeymoon there.
Yeah, and destination wedding.
The Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, you can get married and then bomb a foreign country. That might be fun.
Oh, that would have been good if they'd been like dropped out of a stealth bomber at halftime and sort of married as they dropped down. That I would have been on board with.
The Pop-Tarts Bowl, you could have got married. You could have gotten married by a Pop-Tart. That would be cool.
They could have done that because they have that huge toaster. Yeah. You could have popped out of the toaster to, as you said, your vows to each other.
That's sort not a bad idea.
I now pronounce you husband and wife, and you can kiss the bride, and then they just both popped out of the toaster into each other's arms.
You have the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. I mean, Tony the Tiger, he's going to amp up the crowd for you as the officiant.
I think preferable to the Cheez-It Bowl.
The Duke's Mayo Bowl. You guys could get slathered in mayo and get married.
I still think Cheez-It might be one of the worst options.
No, I think this is the winner, though. You can come to Tucson, Arizona, and get married at the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, presented by Gin and Juice by Dre and Snoop.
Look, if that means Snoop Dogg's your officiant, that's definitely cooler.
And Dr. Dre.
Yeah, but I don't know. I hate these kind of discussions in some respects, but when people start to talk about late stage capitalism and just where the world is, when we're being distracted by people getting married at the Cheez-It Bowl, maybe this is a sign that the world is truly going to shit. All right, well, I guess that wraps up the NFL regular season. Sporting wise, elsewhere, the Premier League, a kind of disjointed footballing calendar at the moment as teams playing.
So difficult to figure out what days teams are playing.
Yeah. I didn't like, traditionally New Year's Day would have been everyone. And then now they kind of have that spread out in different ways. So you had, matches on, all over the place. I don't love it. There are also huge gaps between certain teams in terms of when they're then playing, which I also don't love. But I don't know. It's a tough one. But so far, the only Arsenal played yesterday came from behind, 1-3-1. So they did their job, but it does feel, it also feels, you're trying to have momentum or read the momentum and some of these teams are having such long breaks or playing at different times where I'm losing track of what the momentum is supposed to be. Now, to take us off sports in a topic that is near and dear to your heart, I have almost completed a full Office rewatch.
Wow.
Yeah. I am in the final season. I think I've got maybe 4 or 5 episodes left.
Just stop. In fact, rewind your memory and cut it when Michael left.
Yeah, it's true that there's a major drop off. And just also,
it's not even a drop off. It's legitimately bad. Like I'll give it like the first 5 or 6 episodes after he leaves. There's still some momentum. You have some like the Will Ferrell was kind of funny, and there was still like the focus was still good. But once they officially knew that he was gone, and they then expanded the very peripheral side characters into more regular characters, it was so bad. Like when they start including Kevin more, every joke with Kevin is just fucking awful. It's like, this is so stupid. It actually makes me mad that they kept doing it, and it makes me even madder now that they're bringing it back because they're just further ruining it.
Tell us what you really think. But I think the tough thing, there's some weird decisions that get taken. You kind of look at those late storylines. The Andy Bernard character development is strange because
Awful.
Damon is super dislikable, which was okay. It was what it was. Then they kind of made him likable for a few seasons. And then at the end decided, no, let's make him really hateable again.
Yeah.
That didn't make a ton of sense.
Ed Helms, on the whole, was one of the worst decisions of that show. I don't hate Ed Helms. And maybe it's strong saying Ed Helms, but the character that they created with him is bad. He has like a few good moments very early on, but then as soon as he comes back from anger management, it was never the same. Like when he punches the hole in the wall, that was fucking hysterical and that was classic. But after that, he became like a weird, like, I don't know. It was very strange, like the choices they made with him.
Yeah, and then look, it's one of the most popular topics on the internet of how much Pam sucks, and you do watch it in those final couple seasons. It's just you have this husband who's seemingly part of a potentially extremely successful startup, and yet you want to hold him back because you don't want to move 2 hours to a much more interesting place just because maybe you miss being the office manager at a semi-successful regional branch of a paper company where you actually don't like most of the people you work with, but maybe find them, kind of lovably quirky. I don't know. It's hard because it just seems like, especially now watching it, there was a difference between watching it at the time when I was younger. I now think of it, I'm basically the age they're supposed to be almost at that moment in time. And I
think you're older now. I think Jim's supposed to be like 24, 25. No, I'm dead serious. I think season 1, Jim is supposed to be like 24 years old.
Yeah, but then it's 10 years later.
So he's 33.
No, he wasn't 23 at the start of the show because he's not like fresh. I think I genuinely think at the end of the show, he's probably supposed to be 37-ish.
Maybe. Again, though, I don't count the last season as part of the show. So
no, that's fine. But what I'm saying is he's pretty much my age. And I can't, if I were in a similar environment in a relationship and the person was like, but I won't, and I know, and then this is well-trodden ground when it comes to
late 20s. So supposedly he was supposed to be, Jim Halpert was born February 18th, 1978.
And the show started in 2004? So he's 26 when the show started.
Jim, 25, 26. And in their early 30s by the end.
Late 30s. It's a 10-year show.
Early. Well, yeah, but I don't think every season was like a year.
I think it kind of is because their kid is like 5 years old at the end.
I'm just telling you what the internet's telling me.
No, you're telling me what one website you just stumbled across is telling me, not the internet. I think they're supposed to be the age of who they are, which is, he's in his late 30s, mid to late 30s. But anyway, it doesn't matter, but it's unrelatable in terms of, and again, the internet's done it already. He let her go to New York. Like, that wasn't a big deal. She went to New York, and I know they didn't have kids at the time, but still, like, you were allowed to
And then
do
she
all
quit.
that.
Even worse, she put everyone through such fucking pain, and then she just quit with one class left.
But she did a mural in the warehouse.
She sucks.
But
Should
yeah,
have
it's
been
tough.
with Karen. I would have taken Karen 11 times out of 10.
I would have taken almost all of them. Like,
Kevin?
for the female characters, she's the worst.
No, Angela's the worst.
I don't know. She's at least she's the opposite. She would have let you pursue your dreams endlessly. She was happy to be weird to a successful politician.
See, now I'm thinking about the later seasons. You're making me angry because that's another character where they started including her a lot more, and then the whole senator thing was just so stupid. Why was there so many underlying subtle gay jokes that no one ever tries to cancel on The Office?
It was the early 2000s, mid 2000s when gay
I'm
jokes.
surprised it hasn't gotten canceled because of things like that.
Well, especially considering the fact
because Andy
they got
is a big
credit.
one.
They got credit for having a prominent gay character, but then he's not gay in real life. So it's also one of those ones where it's surprising there hasn't been a little bit of a future backlash of hey, if you're going to have a gay character, you should have a gay actor instead of just an opportunity for a straight person to play a gay person. But, this is sort of, I don't know. It's good. I do think it's not quite as good as maybe you would think, or the kind of general. It makes me laugh. It's enjoyable, but
seasons 2, 3, and 4 are unreal. They're so good.
But yeah, and there's some other. Robert California was enjoyable. That was a minor,
for a little bit.
Yeah, it became too much. But
that's what the last 2 seasons. Everything was just too much.
It also became hard to tell who's supposed to be stupid, who's supposed to be smart, who's kind of aware of how weird parts of this are and who isn't. All of that becomes the muddier waters. You start the show and it's pretty clear that Jim and Pam know this is weird, and they're sort of observing it along with you almost, and that everyone else is either an idiot or insane. And then as the show goes on, it's some people are briefly not idiots anymore, and then they're idiots again, and they're insane for a bit, then they're not insane anymore. It's it's very difficult. But oh well, that's the very timely assessment of The Office.
Glad you finished it 50 years later.
I'd already seen it. This was just, I'm in rewatch mode, as you know, with a couple other shows, just because there's not that much on TV. I'm going to start watching season 2 of Squid Game, but there's not that much to watch. I'm also waiting for my new TV to be delivered. So that's kind of holding back my TV viewing.
Well, have you watched any of the Netflix Christmassy things that dropped? So you had Carry On, the Jason Bateman, Elton John, Taron Egerton, Edgerton, or whatever it is. Did you see that?
I haven't watched that. I did watch a video analyzing it. I think I can't watch it. It's too outrageously stupid for me to be able to watch.
It's okay. It's entertainable. That's not a word. It's entertaining, but there's too many why didn't he just do X kind of scenarios?
I can't watch things like that. There's hate watching to me, and then that's beyond hate watching, where I would just be so infuriated by what I'm watching of why don't you just tell someone? Why can't you just do one thing to make other people aware of this? But yeah, I can't do that.
Did you watch Hot Frosty?
No.
How about Black Doves? Did you watch that?
Nope.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That's with Keira Knightley. That's a TV show. It's not a movie. And it takes place in London on Christmas, which is pretty cool.
Wonderful. Just what I need. More Keira Knightley Christmas content.
It's a spy thriller. What else have I been watching? Silo season 2.
Nope.
Dune Prophecy. That just wrapped up. Not very good.
No, I'm not a big Dune person, and that I'm fine with the movies, but I don't need to go deeper than the movies.
Sex Lives of College Girls season 3.
Nope, surprisingly enough.
I'm actually just restarted Severance because that comes back in 2 weeks, season 2, and I have no idea what happened. So
it's been so long, and I know there was the writer's strike. I know that we had some elements of the pandemic and stuff, but this is too big of a delay between seasons.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of which,
I loved Severance, but my enthusiasm for season 2 coming has waned because it's just been so long.
Yeah, that's why I'm rewatching it. But I just came across an article of 16 TV shows we're excited about in 2025. I'll skip over. The first one is The Pit. It's like an ER doctor kind of thing. Severance season 2. Star Trek Section 31.
Nope.
I'm okay with that. Watson on CBS. It's based off of Dr. John Watson.
Who's playing Watson?
Morris Chestnut. What a name. He was on The Resident, Rosewood, and Nurse Jackie. And he was in his 1991 role, Boys in the Hood.
I mean, how upset are some people going to be that Watson's black? That's going to be... We're going to have to... I don't care, but it makes me hate it because I'm going to have to listen to people be like, well, you shouldn't be. Create your own characters.
White Lotus season 3.
No, I haven't watched any of White Lotus.
Yeah, I'll watch that for sure. I kind of slightly half hate watch them because sometimes they're good, but they're not as good as people think they are. So I kind of watch it for that reason. 0 Day on Netflix, where Robert De Niro is his first TV role.
I'll probably check that out, but I don't have a lot of confidence there.
He plays a former U.S. president. Andor season 2. That's going to be good.
Nope. Didn't watch
Last of Us season 2.
That I'm in for.
I think you'd like Andor better than The Last of Us.
I doubt it. I actually really liked The Last of Us. It would be Severance and The Last of Us. Those are 2 names on the list that I'm really looking forward to watching.
Yeah, me too. And Andor. And that's basically their list. Not a great 2025 to look forward to. But usually there's always those movies that shows that just pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah. No, it's for sure. It's, I wasn't looking forward to Severance until I watched Severance, so you never know.
That's true. All right. Well, with that, maybe we'll call it a day.
Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you later.
See you.
Cheerio.